Hello, I'm Rebecca the Maths Lady, here to help you become an expert primary maths teacher so that all your children become fluent, creative and confident with their maths. This is the last video in the series on teaching maths to children aged 6 to 7 years old, and in this video I'm going to talk all about managing people as you teach maths. So I'm going to talk about typical lesson structures, working with teaching assistants. I'll cover some aspects of managing behaviour in classrooms. And I'll talk a bit about working with other teachers at your school and about working with your head teacher or your management team. And finally, I'll talk about managing yourself and your well-being. Right, let's get started, and I'm going to get straight to a point that's absolutely essential to talk about in 2021, which is when I'm recording this video, and I don't think this issue is going to go away for a while, and that is that some teachers are dealing with extraordinarily stressful situations because of COVID and lockdown. So for the bulk of this video, I'm going to be talking about normal situations. But if you're in a situation where you've got a class of 32 children and a lot of them are struggling to count to 10, which could be happening, and you've got no teaching assistant, please bear with me and be forgiving. A lot of this you can't do because that's the situation you're in. So these strategies that work in normal times aren't going to work for you just now. But please bear with me while I talk about the main normal situations for maths teaching. I will talk a little bit more about extreme situations later on in this video. Right, so in normal times, what does a typical lesson look like? Well, a lot of teachers are using a good to go lesson structure. It's really effective. You start with a very quick warm-up exercise on the carpet of foundational maths just to make sure the lower level number skills are becoming automatic. Then you do some focused teaching which teaches structure and builds methods out from that structure. Then you ask the children, do you get it? Are you good to go? Do you understand what we're talking about? Are you ready to do this type of practice question? And you'll probably go through one practice question. And if the children absolutely get what you're talking about, are ready to go with that, they go off to do a reasonable amount of practice work. Meanwhile, you keep the children who are not quite ready to do that with you, or perhaps they might go to a teaching assistant, just depending on your situation and what their needs are. And you work on some further input, either consolidating the core representation structure you're using, or sometimes switching to a different structure, a different bit of apparatus if you think that's right for your children. As children complete their practice work and it's checked, they achieve mastery status. They may have some kind of visual recognition of that, a sash or a badge or something, and they are free to move on to problem-solving challenges. But they are also available to help other children in class should other children need that help. And they may also help with marking other children's work. Of course, all this takes some training, and these habits and routines don't come overnight. It's also helpful to have some great comms going with any teaching assistants in your classroom, and stamps are absolutely brilliant. You can use them to communicate. I have worked with this child on their work. They were struggling. They're having another go now, but we're going to need to check their work again. A gold star might be used to convey that the child has totally understood their practice exercise and has achieved mastery status. You may need more than 2 stamps. I find these useful even when I'm working on my own to keep track on what I've done with different children. Of course, not all lessons are like that, but it's nice to have a go-to standard style. It allows children to struggle some of the time with some topics and fly with others. You haven't got the children permanently set in tables that predetermine what they're going to do during the lesson, and therefore it allows children to surprise you, or to be good at some topics and not so good at others, which is a wonderful thing. But some lessons may be problem-solving lessons that just have a completely different structure. In other lessons, you may choose to organise the class completely differently because you know that some children need some focused teaching work and other children need to be working on different things. Right, so what about behaviour? What about the situations where you are really struggling to teach a class from the front of the class? Well, first of all, let's just review the standard things. The bad behaviour might be caused by some children, some specific children who may have specific needs who are unable to behave well. or need some substantial support and intervention to learn to behave well. So that needs to be addressed head on if it's something you're struggling with. And it's much more likely to be happening post-COVID because children have come through schooling without those needs being identified and addressed. Now, while you're identifying and addressing those needs, the general behaviour in your class may slip and you may not be able to achieve the standards that you would normally achieve. So once the key issues are addressed and you have strategies for dealing with your most challenging individual students, then you need to come back and address the behaviour in your class. First of all, review standard procedures and policies in your school and make sure you're using them and complying with them. There may be standard ways of dealing with these situations and support that's available to you that you've forgotten about, so just check. But often it does come down to you, the classroom teacher, to puzzle things out. And when I've been dealing with these situations in school, there's one video that I've found particularly helpful. It comes from a series that was made for Teachers TV a few years ago about teachers struggling to teach from the front of the classroom. And in this series, teachers who were really good at that were recorded teaching live for a full hour non-stop from the front of the classroom as a challenge. Nobody is suggesting you should do that in a normal maths lesson. It was just for a television programme so that teachers could really see effective strategies for teaching from the front of the class. So in the description to this video, I'm going to place a link to a video that's not part of this channel, so please do subscribe to this channel so you can find it again. But it's a video of one of those Teachers TV episodes where a teacher was teaching a mixed year 1-2 class from the front of the class for a full hour. They were clearly a challenging class that she'd done a lot of work on to train. The year ones go out halfway through, but she teaches the year twos for the full hour. Now, she uses a system of teaching with cups, which I don't recommend because the person who invented that system sadly passed away a few years ago now and it's not really developed. But there are lots of fabulous behaviour management strategies in this video. And I've found that most teachers who are really struggling really benefit from watching it and just trying to find 1 or 2 strategies that are fresh for them to try, that they've not tried before, that help them get from today to tomorrow while they're struggling to move on with these issues. I hope it helps you. I'm not saying that you do have to teach from the front of the class. I've seen some classes work brilliantly with group works, where some groups are working on activities while the teacher teaches groups. But usually I find if a teacher cannot teach from the front of the classroom, that's a sign that there are some significant problems with behaviour which do need to be addressed. And it should be one of the tools in a teacher's toolkit that they can settle a class from the front. But if you can't just now, please be reassured you're not the only one, and it is something a lot of teachers struggle with and it's part of a journey. Right, next thing is managing your relationship with your managers. I'm just going to say a few things which hopefully will bring things into focus. I think there are 3 types of managers. There's the super wise, super brilliant manager who you just respect and you love working for and you would do anything for because you know that they care about you and they are looking after you. These managers are few and far between. I was lucky enough to have one for the first 6 years of my teaching career. And they are like gold dust and you learn so much when you work for them. And it is definitely worth moving schools to work for this kind of manager. The second type of manager is the reasonable manager who has a very clear vision of what they're doing in school that you often may disagree with, but they treat you with respect as a person and you can have an honest conversation. So a typical situation would be that some schools are run so that all the teachers are expected to work pretty much from a script pretty much all of the time. And the management team are in control of what that script is. Now, this is a model that works really well with young and inexperienced teachers. It works really well in schools where you've got a very transitional staff. And there are other reasons why managers may want to use this model. As a teacher yourself, you may find that you're beginning to want to innovate beyond that because you feel you could do it better. And you may feel frustrated that they're not letting you do that. Or there may be many other reasons why you simply disagree with your management. And you may not get on with them brilliantly because of that. But this is still a healthy situation. It is their right to lead. If you want to do it differently, you need to go up the management ladder yourself. And I would encourage you to do that. And you should be able to have a conversation where you simply say to them, look, I'm getting to a stage of my career where I'd like to innovate more, and I think it's time for me to move school, but I will fully respect what you're doing here while I'm here. Please, will you give me a good reference? So if you're in that type of situation, do be aware it could be a lot worse. That's not a bad situation. And I'll come to that now with the third type of management situation. And that's where you have a manager who is looking to blame you for failure so that they don't take the blame for that failure. And there is a lot of failure going on in schools just now, and in England where I'm based, there's a lot of blame floating around for that failure because of the type of inspection system we have that doesn't tend to look at the wider consequences as to why there is failure and tends to look for easy solutions that are about changing or blaming specific members of staff. And this can lead to situations where teachers are not respected and are not supported. You may be undermined, you may be labelled as being a failure. If that's going on for you, you need to recognise it for what it is. It's not healthy, it's not good for you. It's not necessarily a situation that you can fix by anything you do. It is really, really common. It's part of most teachers' careers at some stage, and it's something you're going to have to navigate, and you may well need a lot of support to navigate that situation. But I just wanted to talk about it openly and honestly, because sometimes just giving it a voice, making it clear in your own head what's going on, is a crucial step to being able to find a way forward. Do talk to your family, do talk to your union, do talk to your friends, get advice, but do not take the blame yourself, and be aware that you may not be able to fix this situation. You may need to leave this situation. And there is a lot more of this going on post-COVID simply because there's a lot more failure. And the levels of stress you're under in your personal life also impact on this, and a lot more people are under more stress. So if you're in a personally very difficult situation, I don't have a magic wand. I wish I did. I can only say I've been there and I've found ways through, and I'm glad that I've been there. If you're going to be a good head teacher or someone who has a huge positive impact in your teaching career or in other aspects of your life, it helps to have been there. You learn a lot by having been through the mill yourself. Hope that helps a little bit. I mentioned earlier on in this video that some teachers are under extreme stress because of what's going on in their classrooms post-COVID. I'm going to record a live stream specifically on that, and I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. If you can't find that description on your phone, you will be able to find it easily below the video if you go onto a computer and look at this video. Okay, finally, relationships with parents about maths teaching at this stage. You need to be really careful what homework you set, because if you're teaching well, you're using strategies that parents won't know about, because they remember their abstract ways of doing simple math that they use as adults. They don't remember the stages they went through when they were very young. So the vast majority of your maths teaching needs to go on in class, and parents don't necessarily need to know about it. If you want to set homework, make it complementary, make it fun. So you could say, we've been studying shapes. Here are the shapes we've been looking at. Can you find them in the environment around you? We've been looking at capacity. Can you do a bit of work on capacity at home? Can you look at measuring spoons and measuring jugs and so on? And discuss those with your child. If you've got children who need intervention and you want to engage parental support, you need to be really specific and precise about asking for support that's going to work for that child to help them overcome specific gaps and obstacles in their learning that they're struggling with. And you need to share resources with the parent that are really going to help. And they can include arrow cards for understanding number if you've got a child who's struggling to read number, and that will help their parent become aware of what they're struggling with. So, quick summary. We've talked about ways of managing and structuring your lessons. We've talked a bit about managing behaviour. Talked a bit about understanding and working with your manager or your management team. Talked a little bit about working with parents, but most of all, I've tried to encourage you to be kind to yourself. Listen to yourself. You're a human being. You can't fix the world. You can't cope with every situation that's thrown at you. You need support. You need to be able to ask for it. I hope you found this video and this series useful. If you've time to leave me a comment, I'd hugely value that. Feedback is always welcome. Constructive criticism is particularly welcome because I love to learn. If you'd like to see the other resources, videos and worksheets that I've free shared, please go to the About section for the description of this YouTube channel and you'll find links to all of that. If you have time to give us a like, to subscribe, to comment or to share this video with your friends, that would be fantastic. Thank you for taking this time to invest in your professional development to help us build a generation of children who are fabulous at maths, because it's what this world needs. Take care. Bye for now.